So much disagreement, so much argument, so many issues where it seems that only one side can win and that the other must lose. But we all share one world, so we should look for ways forward on these issues where both sides win. Talkshop developed the win-win workout as a simple way for 6 people over an hour and a half to explore shared ways forward. We got some funding from the Royal Society of Arts to run the win-win workout with 4 groups on the future of the statue of Edward Colston in Bristol. Colston was both heavily involved in the slave trade through the Royal African Company and Bristol's greatest benefactor. His statue was pulled down and rolled into the harbour during a Black Lives Matter protest in June 2020. It is now in a museum in Bristol, while the We Are Bristol History Commission decides its future. Everyone takes on a character based on someone involved in the debate over Colston. 3 characters believe that the statue should have come down. 3 believe it should not. The people who took part were not diverse, all white for example, but the characters they took on were much more so.
I'm Miles Chambers. I live in Bristol and was brought up here. And some people just don't get that black people like me still feel the full impact of slavery today. A name change or a statue move is not going to rectify racism or eradicate the slave mentality that still exists, but it will help to say to black people, you are equal to us, you are British, you are valuable, and you mean as much to us as any other citizen.
I'm Simon, and I'm very much against the toppling of the statue. I started a petition urging Boris Johnson to restore the statue.
So what struck my mind is the story of Hungary, which I thought was interesting because rather than get rid of all their statues when Stalinism ended, they hid them, and then the statues resurfaced with a reflection.
In the discussion that we're about to have, it is absolutely your job to look after the interests and needs of your character. But it is equally your job, to look after the needs and interests of everybody else.
There were creative ideas for using the plinth. For example, memorials to all sorts of people could be commissioned, put on the plinth for a month at a time. Colston's turn would come around once a year. There's a parallel here with the 4th plinth in Trafalgar Square in London. Another group thought that the plinth would be more valuable as a place of learning, discussion and reflection.
That plinth may be a little bit like in Hyde Park Corner, where you stand on the platform and have your say.
Also, there were ideas, accepted by everyone, that went well beyond the statue and the plinth. The next 4 speakers are all from the same group.
I suppose I want to know whether there's a way of recognising everyone's history.
We really need to find a way that makes everyone feel comfortable enough to be in the vicinity of, in this instance, the Colston statue.
I think I would like a museum to develop the growth of history, how history grows and develops.
I like the point, Davina, that you made about recognising how history develops and changes, and that it's not set in stone. Because I think we tend to look at history as something solid and immutable. And actually what this debate is showing, and what the last few decades have shown, is that the way we understand our past does change.
Another group made similar points, but were less keen on a museum.
Something about the future as well that questions how are we living now that may be judged in particular ways in the future. And this would be, and I personally would rather this be out in the open in Bristol than put away in a museum where only people who have particular interests or thoughts in this direction would go to see it.
This is not only about history. So while it might be good to have a counterpointing, there's Colston, there's 84,000 slaves or a single unknown slave, it's, for me, it's much more about the issues that are affecting people now. In other words, it's the legacy of slavery. And in whatever goes in that place, I would like it to be something which talks about what's happening now as a result of what Colston did.
In conclusion, it wasn't always an easy discussion. There were a few arguments, but people worked at finding common ground, and they succeeded.
I think this discussion is showing the benefit of the sort of process we're talking about and that Simon's been talking about people gathering together in small groups and actually discussing these things. Because at the start of this discussion, I and Nicola were absolute poles apart, and there is no way I would possibly have agreed with anything he said. But the discussion actually has brought out the fact that actually there are some things I can agree with, and that his view is not as entrenched as I thought it was.